Hello and welcome back to the Lean In podcast with Ryan and Joel. Me being Ryan and
Me
Joel
being
being my
Joel.
good friend.
Oh,
And
sorry, I
that's
interjected.
Joel over
Sorry,
there.
sorry. We're not very
Oh,
good at this.
this is the day is ruined, really.
Shut up and do the
But
intro already.
okay, all right. And today we are going to be talking about visual effects in movies and all sorts of different things. Probably. I don't know. But I hope you have a good time today
Heck
as
yeah.
you listen to this.
We're going to talk about some music in movies too, because Ryan and I are big fans of those big orchestral themes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, to start us off, Joel, take it away with your fact of the week and your news story of the week.
You are a news story.
I
Um,
don't. Oh well, thank you. Um, I do like a bit of the drama.
do you now? My okay, are we saying news stories or facts? What are we doing?
Well, actually, first of all, how are you going?
Oh, do you
What's
know what,
what's been
Ryan?
happening?
I've been doing pretty good. I hope you guys watching on YouTube can't see that I'm leaning back too much, but I've got stomach cramps. It's a fun time. What about you,
And
Ryan?
you,
How are you?
um, oh, I would just wonder, did you end up in the ER at one point, or no? Is that or did I just not hear that?
Yeah, I did. I got some nice drugs to help calm the pain. You know. Speaking of pain, I
Okay.
heard Ryan that you started doing some martial arts.
Yeah.
What a
Oh, I'm
segue!
I'm so glad you brought this up. I'm so glad. I am felt falling in love. I will probably well, I'll probably get bored of it later and just be like, oh, okay, this is just like another thing. But right now, I'm just loving Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And Joel, I reckon I just want to bring you in at one point. That would be cool. Um,
That
Even
sounds
though like
painful.
it is very painful, not painful, but just you'll have a good time, I reckon.
I
Uh,
better have a good time.
yeah, you get put into chokeholds and arm locks and leg locks and all sorts of different things.
I feel like Ryan's version of what a good time is might be slightly different to my idea of a good time.
What do you mean, man? What do you mean?
If
It's a
you
good
are trying to
time.
get someone to do something, I don't know if you start with headlocks and arm locks as your way in,
And
but
like greasy older men on you as well.
okay,
Very,
that's a very
very
different
much.
podcast category. Let's move past that. Ryan, have you got any
Welcome back to Sex Life with Ryan and Joel.
You're making a mockery of this podcast. So Ryan, have you got any maybe interesting facts that will lead our mind to greater knowledge and strength and
uh,
integrity?
I do. Okay, well, my fact of the week, I just find this pretty funny. So back in World War II, there was a bear enlisted in the Polish army who made it to the rank of corporal. He smoked, he drank, and carried weapons to the front during battles. His name was, I've got here, Wojciech. I don't know how to say that. Wojciech. Um, yeah, just picture like a bear being in your platoon and and just like smoking and drinking with you
I'll
as if
I'll
he's a
repeat again
soldier.
for the players at home. Ryan, you're making a mockery of this podcast.
No, that's the best fact that we'll ever have ever. Freaking
I have
sorry,
a lot
my
of questions. Like, did he have a handler?
no, he wasn't Hitler. If that's what you're
Sorry,
asking.
sorry.
I heard Hitler.
I said
Uh,
handler.
oh, no. I reckon he was independent. He seemed to, just kind of pick up drinking and pick up smoking. on
Are
his
you
own.
are you getting inspiration for like your next Dungeons and Dragons character? Is this just going to be a
Oh
bear
yes, it's just the bear boy.
in more ways than one?
um, oh my
Um,
god. Note taken.
Ryan, I have
Yes.
also an interesting fact from a very different tact to what you have done.
Okay. Yeah.
But I found it interesting. I was watching one of those like compilations on like most streamed songs on Spotify ever, like the top 100.
Uh-huh.
And Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, the 1975 song, is in the top 30.
Really?
Yep.
Wait, with how many plays?
Like it's ridiculous. It's like over 1 billion or something. It's something stupid. Like it's a stupid number of plays.
I almost actually want to look it up now. Like, so
It
what
just
on
shows you,
Spotify?
right? Yeah, yeah. I think it's in the top 100. I don't know how old that video was I watched, but I assume it's still in like the top 50. But it just
Yeah.
shows you good music kind of transcends platforms, transcends time.
Ah.
Very
And I
interesting.
see how that actually half ties in with the theme of this week, whereas mine doesn't every time.
But I feel like
Um,
that's what makes our friendship unique.
okay, I'm looking at Queen's Spotify right now. So, oh wow, so they've got 36 million monthly listeners.
What? Still,
Yeah, 36 million.
I'm one of them.
And
I
then
occasionally listen to some Queen.
I thought, yeah, you'd probably make up a million of those listeners just with different Spotify accounts.
I'm
all
that
playing at the
obsessed
same
with
time.
Queen.
Yeah, yeah, just playing it, blasting it. Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody is 1,630,274,952.
Sheesh.
Yeah. Oh, I ran out of maths just then to even
I always
comprehend
run
that.
out of maths at the worst time.
Yeah.
I'd just like to interject here with the cap that I'm wearing. Go Bucks, 6-1, 2021 season. All right, now moving on. News stories of the week. Ryan, have you got anything for us?
So yeah, I'm hearing this and I'm like, what? I don't even know what that is, but I love it. Yeah, this is actually quite an uplifting thing if you're an environmentalist or you like to just check in with the environment every now and then. So 20,000 pounds of trash was removed from the Pacific garbage patch, thanks to a Dutch entrepreneur called Boyan Slat. And he's made these sort of yeah. I probably butchered it. I don't even know.
No, that's not what I'm laughing at, Ryan.
Wait, what?
You're a beautiful flavor on this podcast.
Oh, well, you just like, okay, here's the thing. You know how everybody's like, I love the environment. And I would say I'm one of these people. I love the environment. I love animals and everything.
I hate the environment.
Like, oh, okay. Straight up.
Continue.
Um,
You were saying something about loving the
Wait, so
environment.
when the bushfires were happening, where you're like, yeah,
Yes! Dream
yes.
come true.
And you were in the middle of like everything. So actually, how was it
yeah.
for you? Were you pretty close?
This like the 2020 bushfires.
Like
We were good. Yeah, was that 2020? Summer 2020 or like end of 2019?
Start of 2020, end of 2019. Yeah.
No, I don't think we were that affected by those bushfires. It was the bushfires before that when it like came up to like our back fence. That was fun.
Yeah.
Fire truck and boys. So, great shout out to the rural fire service. Legends over there.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and yeah, anyways, like friggin' environment. Okay. Do you think that everybody goes about their day, and I'm sure there's like probably a slim margin of people, but I think the majority of people are so caught up in their own sort of lives and their own sort of things. Political opinions with Ryan and Joel.
The environment.
Yeah.
No, I think you're getting
no,
at something good there with like the. I don't think we do take that much, like thought. Not that you should like everything you do be like, oh my goodness, the environment, but like
yeah.
it's
Honestly,
the
I feel
small
like
things.
you would. Honestly, I feel like you would just be in so much anxiety at every moment of your life because you'd be walking around and be like, oh, if I throw this in the wrong, like if I just miss that garbage, or like if I don't know, if I if I litter just a little bit here, or I don't know, like I didn't pick up that piece of trash. Oh no, the
You just
world's
couldn't
gonna
live.
burn.
Yeah, you couldn't live. The
Yeah,
anxiety associated with that and the responsibility you put on your own shoulders. Crazy.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um,
Um,
again, Ryan, you've now again taken a really big issue and made an interesting fact, and now I have a boring fact to be. My news story, actually, sorry, my news story of the week is just that the new trailer dropped for the Batman in the last little while,
ooh,
and
yes.
that's looking fine. You
Mm.
know what I'm saying?
It's very smexy,
It's
very
got it's
smexy.
got
I
like the
am.
dark tone of the like Nolan franchise, but with like the comic book influence in the color grading and like I don't
Mm,
know the vibe. I'm just vibing right now, man. Like I
yeah, and I like the this sort of new Batman, and you can kind of see it in the colors that presented in the from what we're seeing as well. Lots of like dark reds and everything
mm,
almost. Like
yeah,
we've got
that like
some
red, orange,
black.
yellow is looks so good on that trailer. Like the colors are
Yeah.
just like
Oh,
oh
and he's like, and you can tell he's like still he's young and still full of rage. So the
I'm
colors kind of
vengeance.
reflect that. Yeah, I am vengeance. I mean, he just freaking pummels that guy. Far out.
Oh, the end of
Yeah.
the trailer though, when the penguin's car flips and he's looking out, like he's upside down and he's looking out at the flames, and Batman's just like, oh, it's just so good, man. Whoever was
Yeah.
like, that's
Oh.
the shot we're doing. Oh, you're hot. You're hot. Or the scene in the
You
like hallway with the muzzle flashes are like illuminating Batman, like it's pitch black.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And he's darting around. Oh, so good.
um,
Okay.
I don't know if I got as excited. Like that trailer got me like 9.5, but the new Spider-Man trailer got me like 9.7, 9.8. You know what I'm saying?
Wait, was that the teaser trailer, or is there a new trailer out?
Like the full trailer, the like 2.5 minute one.
And where we see like Green Goblin. Well,
Yeah,
we
we
see
hear
his like
Green
little
Goblin.
grenade. Yeah, yeah, and then we
Oh
see
my
Doctor
gosh.
Ock, and he's like, "Hello,
Hello,
Peter."
Peter.
Yeah, Peter.
Oh, at that point in the trailer,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude,
I'm in heaven right now.
Oh, yeah. And leading on to that, what do you think of the visual effects that they've applied to his face?
He looks good.
Yeah, I think it looks good too. Like the
I think they
anti-aging
needed it to
one.
do it because I know there's a part of me that wanted to see Doc Ock, Goblin, and like Peter, Tobey Maguire Peter, as like really old, like not really old, like the grandpa, but like
Yeah,
in their
yeah.
late 30s, 40s kind of vibe.
Mm,
But
mm.
at the same time, it would be really cool to see them just come straight from their movies. Like I was watching a theory on YouTube that was each of these characters is being pulled from the Raimi universe just as they're about to die, the two villains. So Doc Ock's
What?
being taken out of the water in the friggin' river and put into a different timeline. And then Goblin is like just as he's about to get hit by his glider, he's taken as well. Like that's like there's a theory that they're like just snapped out of their reality and brought into Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Um, but Ryan, how disappointed are you going to be out of 10 if Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire do not appear in the movie at
Look,
all?
I'm like, okay, why go? I reckon if they're only just doing the villains, people are gonna be like, well, why don't you just, bring in the other Spider-Man? It would be it's they've shown that the villains from other universes are going to be in it. So why go the like the
It's a missed opportunity, hey. Like if they don't do
yeah,
it,
yeah,
it's everyone has great fan theories that are like about it. If you're going to bring, because they're bringing not just like we've seen Doc Ock, we've seen Goblin, we've seen in the trailer Electro's in the trailer, like his lightning's in the trailer.
yeah,
There's like pictures in the like if you freeze frame in the trailer, it looks like Sandman's in the movie. Like there's
yeah, yeah,
sand moving about, and then we clearly like someone on YouTube like cranked the colors on the shot where something jumps at the glass at Tom Holland. It's freaking just
yeah.
lizard. So you've already got
True.
5, and then we don't know who the 6th is, right? Because it's probably going to be a
Um,
Sinister Six.
yeah. Okay.
I'd love to
Theory
see
time.
Sony's Venom, but we won't because that's just not how the contract will work. But I'd love to
Nah,
just see Sony's
nah,
Venom.
Joel. It's gonna be Venom.
Nah, I don't
That's
believe
also
it.
because what's oh okay. I do you follow Marvel Studios spoilers on Reddit?
No, I don't think I do. I'm actually barely on
Oh.
Reddit. I should be, but what's that account revealed?
Oh mate, like there's a photo of Tom Hardy with a Spider-Man No Way Home hat on. Like, and he's hanging out with some stunt crew. It's fairly, and then
Uh, I want to
and
look at
then
this
at the
photo right now.
you can find it. You can find it. Tom, look up Tom Hardy, uh, No Way Home, and
Oh,
it should be
literally,
there.
it's literally Tom Hardy No Way Home hat is literally a recommended search.
Yeah, yeah. People are like frothing over this.
Who says this picture's altered?
Do you
I
reckon?
really want this to be true, but I feel like there's no way he would be allowed to just wear merchandise for this film if this is supposed to be like a. It's the same as like clearly if Toby Maguire is in the movie, he's gonna deny it because he hasn't been
Yeah.
revealed. It's except like friggin' Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina were not hiding that they were in the movie. Alfred Molina was
Yeah.
asked, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm in the movie," and it takes place like my character's gonna. I'm like, "What? Wait, what? You can't say this."
Yeah. But I reckon, and I think Corridor Crew, the VFX guys on YouTube,
Oh, is this
I
this
think
video
they,
about the Garfield footage?
yeah, the Garfield
Yeah,
footage,
yeah,
and they mentioned something like, uh, I found it really interesting because it seems like, movie studios, especially Marvel and especially maybe even DC,
yeah. Hmm.
uh, people are using leaks as advertising now because people are going to click on a link for leaks more than they are to like, oh, this movie is coming out.
Doesn't
People are
Sam
like,
in that
ooh.
episode say, yeah, yeah, doesn't Sam say, "Oh, am I not supposed to see this?" Click.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's part of human nature or something. I don't even know.
If you
But
guys as
it's like,
well listening
ooh,
haven't
ooh.
heard of Corridor Crew, go look them up on YouTube and you'll spend the next 8 hours watching their content. Great stuff, awesome
Mm,
stuff on there,
mm.
especially about visual effects. We're going to talk about a bit today as like lay people. They're experts in that kind of thing. So go check them out if you're looking for how they did stuff in movies that is not clear. But yeah, I'm super keen. I'd love to see Venom, even if it's for a look. I wouldn't be utterly disappointed if the only time we get to see the other Spider-Man is like through a portal, and it's literally Andrew Garfield turning away, looking at camera and turning away from camera. That would be enough for me. Like I know that at the end of the day, we don't want this movie to be too muddy and convoluted. But
Yeah,
at the same
yeah.
time, part of me wants to see a shot where all 3 Spider-Man and a live action Miles Morales
Oh,
all just
oh
kind of are
yeah.
standing there and kind of like turn around because he is Sony property as well. If they could like just Oh,
and the amount of like, I don't know. I think a lot of youth, like us included, we love, for some reason, Spider-Man just really hits home for everybody. Um,
the
I
character is
think.
perfect, isn't he? Like
Oh yeah.
he's the teen, like the angst teen that a lot of us can like identify with. He's a hero that no one thought would be a hero. You know, he's the nerd, he's the loser at high school, and then he just happens to become this hero. So we get that path. Um,
Mm.
what else do you think it is about him? Is it that he has like he's just a really nice guy? Like he's a pretty
You know,
I wouldn't say two dimensional, right? But he's a little simple, and that might.
mm,
What do you think?
another YouTube channel. This is linked to what we're
Mm.
talking about. Another YouTube channel that uh I would recommend is Wisecrack, and
Wisecrack.
they've actually done, yeah, they do like the philosophy of Game of Thrones, the philosophy of
Ah, these
Spider-Man.
guys. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I watched their Spider-Man video and I was like, I just was mind blown. Um, just like, what's the main colors of, like, this is from what I remember. Like, what's the main colors of Spider-Man?
Red and blue.
Red and blue and white. And
White. Yeah.
what's a flag that has that?
America.
America. Spider-Man is representative of how America sees itself.
Isn't that more Captain America though? Or is Captain America
Yeah,
what they think? Yeah, is one of them their actual reality, and then the other one is what they want to
yeah.
be?
Especially the more recent stuff, like the Winter Captain America, like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, sort of dealt with like what is America, really? Like what is America standing
Hey,
for?
no
But like,
spoilers. Haven't finished it yet. Okay.
okay, true. I would. It's worth it. I reckon. It gets a bit more
I think we've
complex.
stayed pretty
Anyways,
spoiler free on this podcast so far. Like we've talked about like I think if we will keep it that way, and then if we do actually like talk in detail about a movie or a TV show, we'll let you know, and we'll like timestamp
yeah.
it so you can avoid it if you want to see the thing. Um,
Mm. And we'll throw flashes on the screen. We'll
Spoiler alert. I
yeah,
want to ask you a question right now before we move on to like the other stuff you want to talk about.
yeah.
I'm going to put something at you that I've heard in theories and I very much agree with. I don't think Doctor Strange is being honest with Peter in the trailer. From what we've seen in the
Ooh.
trailer, he would never cast
Mm.
this spell that we
Yeah,
see in the
he's
trailer.
like, yeah, yeah, and you know, I was watching those sort of videos of people breaking the trailer bit by bit,
Mm.
and yeah, they were commenting as well of like, this is just so off for Doctor Strange because he's usually quite actually wise and fairly,
Well, he's supposed to be the best of
um,
us, right? Like he's the like as much as we didn't understand in Infinity War him giving the stone to Thanos, he always makes the right call, and he's a little bit wily and he'll do what he wants, and he's got an ego. But what
yeah,
we're talking about here is absolutely dismantling the timeline. Which I
and he's
really
just like,
don't see him
yep,
doing.
and
Did you
then
see
he
the
gets.
theory about him doing this using Peter to break the timelines intentionally so that he can get ahead of the threat that he needs to fight in the multiverse of madness?
Oh, that would be really cool. Um, but see, I wonder because, like, if we're saying that Doctor Strange is almighty and powerful, uh, there's no rule. Just as a story writing sort of thing. Like, what's his problem then? You know, like, what do it? Is he still dealing with ego? Is he still, you know, what's happening there? So,
Well, I
so
guess that
yeah, I
maybe
think
the
that's
story
really.
point is that he's biting off more than he can chew. Because is he trying to
Uh,
disrupt the timeline so that I've seen a theory, so I'm not just being, amazingly smart right now.
yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah.
watched a video. is he breaking the timeline so he can catch these interdimensional villains one by one, so that he's either getting ahead of the threat he needs to fight. The other thing that's interesting is the title. I've heard someone's theory that Spider-Man and Doctor Strange are fighting in this movie because Doctor Strange is trying to catch these villains that are going to cause him a lot of chaos in an interdimensional split. But Peter wants to return them to their timelines and fix their timelines. So there's this and then the title is No Way Home. And it's like this, is that about the villains getting home? And now, when we say villains, by the way, we're talking about some of the most beloved characters in Spider-Man. Like,
yeah. They're actually likable dudes, like as much as like they get kind of, it seems like they get power hungry or whatever. Like each villain gets really power hungry, and it's just like, I'm just gonna blow up New York now or something like, or like toxic gas in New York or whoever. But they all start off with like really good intentions, and every villain starts off like really likable. Actually, I would agree. Yeah.
Well, what if we contrast that for a second to Batman, right? A lot of the villains are likable, but not likable as people.
Yeah.
Like, as good as I love the Joker, he's not a good dude. Like, at any point of him. Not. Or the Penguin. Or Catwoman. Or, like, when you look at the Spider-Man villains, we're talking about, like, a doctor that is trying to create a renewable energy source to stop the climate change and save the world.
Yeah.
And he turns into a villain through that. Like Green Goblin, he's trying to create scientific advancements, right?
Yeah.
And that starts all honest until it's like warfare and
Yeah. And he's just like, all right, Peter, I'm gonna do it on myself. And I love how he always says, Peter.
Willem Dafoe, man. Oh, he was such I'm so glad that we got to hear his. What does he chuckle in the trailer? Be careful what you wish for, Parker.
Yeah. And you just hear like or whatever his cackle.
Oh, another thing, right? Did you have a thought in your brain at the end of the trailer how Dr. Octopus knows that Tom Holland is Peter Parker?
Yeah, see, look, this is... I reckon
now, I think it's clever editing. It's clever editing, yes, surely.
I'm on the same page. Or they've done this in other trailers as well, Marvel. They've actually they've gotten more visual effects into the trailer. So like, I think it was for Infinity War. There was a scene where we see a charge, all the characters charging at Thanos or whatever. And we see Hulk in his normal state, sort of thing. But then in the actual movie, he's in the Hulkbuster. He can't actually... Yeah. So I reckon they've done some clever little CGI and editing that this is... What we're seeing is a different Spider-Man.
I really hope he's talking to Tobey Maguire. Like, I really...
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you see that theory video that was like, I really want to see the Spider-Man meme where they're all just pointing at each other?
I reckon they're going to do that. Like, there's got to be some crowd pleasing, and I don't care. Like, I'm honestly so hyped for it.
Let's transition a bit. Yeah, sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, actually, we've talked about Spider-Man for a bit. Let's just go.
Well, I guess we can transition a bit into visual effects with this episode. The de-aging effects we're seeing on Alfred Molina, we've seen before on Samuel L. Jackson's Fury in previous movies. We've seen it on Peter Quill's dad. I can't think of the actor's name. It's left me. Really famous actor.
That dude.
That dude. Stan Lee, of course, has had a bunch of de-aging in the movies in between. What do you think about that? From a visual standpoint, do you think it looks good? And then secondly, No, answer that first, and then I'll go down the tangent I want to go down.
Okay, I could see that you really wanted to get somewhere with that. I'll be quick, Joel. I'll be quick. Don't
You
worry.
better be.
Nah. Yeah, I think it's actually quite such an art. Like, think about making a imagine having somebody in front of you and then almost sculpting their younger self. Like you look at them and you, of course, like these visual effects guys have like tons of images and
Yeah, and automated
frames of
processes and like,
yeah, and I reckon, and the whole process of deep faking things
mm,
as well. And if you don't know what deep faking is, it's pretty much an artificial intelligence that will map uh your face, and then it'll have a whole directory of
mm.
um previous things you could upload. You just upload a bunch of your like pictures of your face pretty much, and then you could put that onto somebody else now and they would look pretty similar to you. It's actually remarkable how similar they would look.
And like
And
anything, the more pictures you give it, like the better it's going to be. Like, and the more time you give it. But we're kind of getting into this weird frame with deepfakes, right? Where it's like the actual like technology behind a deepfake, we're not actually kind of seeing yet in Hollywood because when
yeah.
they've said we deepfake people, and then they'll show you like a CGI model, and you're like, you're not deepfaking. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
But
And
it's interesting.
yes. And remember when Batman versus Superman came out? At
Oh
least,
my
yeah,
gosh. The
the
mustache.
intro, the mustache, and you can see it like flickering here. Like props to those guys that just like
They must have brute
I
forced
can
that. There's no system, right? That had to just be someone
yeah.
sitting there frame by frame. Like,
And they had like the next thing to go to, then they were just like, I'm done. All right.
oh, well, think of the pressure, right? Because that was on, like, Batman Superman's not a great film as well. And I bet they were under, like, a lot of pressure to, like, push it out. And there would have been other shots. Like, that's the thing I think we need to remember when you see visual effects. Visual effects are like a tool, right? To tell your story. But at the end of the day, sometimes there's just too many visual effects shots that the directors and producers have decided to put in the thing. The effects are houses. They've got deadlines. Like at the
Oh yeah. Effects are houses. I like that analogy though. Like they've got a certain timeline, and they have to get things done by this point. And yeah.
well, it's like at the end of the day, the film's got to get, or the TV show, it's got to get done. So here's the thing, and I feel like I'm just speaking corridor crew to camera right now, but think of visual effects as just another tool, right? Like if you are watching for bad visual effects, right? When you go like you come out of a movie and go, that looked fake. It's like, yeah, because it was fake. Like
yeah.
There's a line where you need to go. Were they so bad that they actually took me out of it? Which in any like big Hollywood movie, that's just not true. If your friend comes out of a movie and goes, I couldn't stop looking at the bad visual effects.
Well, what's a movie that really balances realism, uh, realistic sort of CGI, as well as keeping it still like fantastical and magical? What movie kind of jumps out to you?
Well, before you said magical, I would have said 1917.
I still have yet to see that. Oh my goodness.
You need to watch that because they do oneers in that movie that aren't oneers.
Yeah.
They're not. Like they look like they're one shot. They're not. They're actually mixing. I want you to watch it because there's a bunch of times when you will like swear on your mother's grave that you're looking at a real person. But to mix some of these cuts, right? The one I saw on Corridor Crew is like one of the characters jumps into like a crater, but they finished the top day with him jumping down, and they started from the bottom of the pit on the next day. So someone just didn't clock that those two shots didn't work. So someone that from the jump to the bottom, the person is completely computer generated. And that movie, you're watching a lot of things of explosions and real people running across frame, and it's war and it's beautiful and it's practical, but they're hiding beautiful visual effects in there that they're not using as like, oh, hey guys, we've had a bunch of talking and dialogue. Now it's time for the visual effects shot.
Yeah, true.
They're using it to complement the movie.
So yeah, okay, very interesting that you say hidden sort of
they should
CGI.
be.
Yeah, they should be
hidden. Unless you're looking at something that doesn't exist.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, clearly a big fleet of big armada of aliens coming down and
or lightsabers or like dinosaurs or like
yeah. Okay. Those clearly didn't exist either. So
welcome to the episode of the podcast. We put on our tinfoil hats and we discuss. I'm gonna complain for a moment here. Anyone who says that the dinosaurs in Jurassic World look bad, I hate you. I hate you, and I know, Ryan, you're one of them.
No, I'm just trying to think about it. I've seen Jurassic World, but I can't really remember
I hear the comparison between the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park look way better than Jurassic World, and I will challenge anyone who says that when you go back and watch Jurassic Park, yeah, they look good, but they look like puppets. Like, the velociraptors look like people in suits. And I'm not saying that's bad. That's amazing. Yeah. We're talking about the 90s. And the T-Rex, when they do the CGI, when it walks out through the rain and through the cars, it looks good, but like compared to a simulation today, it doesn't stand up. Neither of them are bad. Each of them are reflections of what tools they had in their two different time periods, right?
Yeah. Wait, what year was Jurassic Park? Was it 1993?
I want to say 3 or 1. I'll Google it. But either way, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and then
93?
93. Oh, wow. So 8 years later, we get Lord of the Rings as well. Like the pre-production of Lord of the Rings.
Well, you were just speaking about a movie that blends visual effects with reality, but in like a magical way. You are watching so many visual effects shots in The Lord of the Rings, and you are not even flinching. You're not even like clearly when you see thousands of orcs, like you're looking at a visual effects shot. They didn't just go and get 1,000 orcs to spend 12 hours in makeup to just stand out there and do nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, because that would have been and like that would have cost more to get extras, to get that many extras, whereas you can just put a CGI army in and you're good to go. And of course you put like little CGI makeup on it to make it look a bit better, and then it's good. Yeah.
Well, you got to. That's probably when you're saying, you make a good point there about the blending, right? That's what makes a shot look good. You blend what you actually shot on the day with the visual effect. So, like if you're doing Lord of the Rings today, you'd probably have like the first 3 rows of people real and in practical like makeup and things, and then from them behind you just do CGI doubles. But I think we're losing our way with. I just don't like when people talk about visual effects. Like they'll come out of a movie and go, "Yeah, that looked crap," and it's like they just came out of like a new shark movie, and it's like, like, what do you want?
Yeah, true. And honestly, like I've been that person, like that would walk out and just.
We've all been that person. Like,
yeah, that was crap. That looked so crap. And and just kind of really complaining about like, do you see that part when the shark was eating the person? You could clearly see that just from that little shark tooth. That blew me obviously it wouldn't be that clean, and I hate that movie. You know, that sort of thing.
Well, I think you double
Um,
down, right? That's the human nature that if you're complaining about the visual effects, you didn't like the movie. Like let's go from the get go.
yeah.
If you there's very few movies, right, that you go, I love the movie, but the effects look bad. I really can't think of a movie that I was like, because if you're just sitting there looking at, or if you're sitting on YouTube watching a scene and you're like flicking frame by frame, you've missed the point of the thing.
You're really trying to find. You're really trying to like. Oh, I just. Here's another reason why I hate this. It's like you're writing an essay to yourself about like why this is a crap movie.
Well, like think about it like this, right? Most people would have gone. They'll go, oh, the effects looked really bad in that movie I just watched, and then they'll watch the Battle of the Bastards in Game of Thrones, and go, man, I love how they did that all practically. And then it'll be like, bro, like 75% of that scene is CGI.
Yeah. Like that's an awesome scene though. Like I love the like I don't think we've actually I can't think of any other recent media like that's medieval fantasy where we're like almost first person uh just following this one character in a battle.
Well, did it hit you like? I totally agree, because I would say that that's the best battle scene, like medieval sword fighting battle scene I can remember, like since Lord of the Rings. And I was even someone that didn't love Game of Thrones because of the last season, but that stands up like amazing. That's so true though. You're saying about like following the one person. Did it give you Saving Private Ryan vibes?
Yes, yeah, like very much the chaotic nature of war and the very just blood and guts and
Like
just
horses flying
confusion.
past camera and like the chaos but the beauty, right?
Yeah, that's right. The beauty and chaos. And it was I think they actually I actually remember watching the behind the scenes footage of that, and it's remarkable uh how much editing and how much just the visual effects can really come into play, because when you look at the behind the scenes, just like it just looks like maybe at most 100 people just kind of standing around,
Yeah.
and then like people just jumping into frame, and then like once they're done they just kind of like walk off. They
Can you
just
imagine
kind
if
of
they
walk
did
off.
that practically? There'd be like 100 stunt people that got like 3 seconds in the episode.
Yeah. And so it's like I think I reckon Lord of the Rings just set the precedent for all that, just
Yeah.
to for Game of Thrones and um what other sort of medieval fantasy things are out there, like
I mean, like
I think
of recent, I'm obsessed with The Witcher. It's
oh
very,
yeah
very
yeah
different. Like I wouldn't compare it to either of those, but in like a medieval scene, and again, we're talking about visual effects, right? The Witcher is a perfect example of how to get away with not a huge budget, because I think we think that things on Netflix just must have massive budgets, but it's like
yeah.
it's a massive risk to make like something. So Netflix isn't going to give them like amazing amounts of money. But when you
I'm
watch The
pretty sure
Witcher, like
80% of the salary went to Henry Cavill, like getting
oh,
him
it'd
into
have to
it.
be like.
Yeah.
Although I reckon he would have done it for free. Like at the end of the
Oh yeah.
day, he
Yeah.
loves that.
Hmm.
But
Sorry, what
what?
were you saying? I jumped in there.
Oh, I just mean like they kind of, if you think of like VFX money set aside, right, as like a big bag, like it's the perfect stretching exercise to make sure that you don't spend too much of your money in certain areas so that other areas look really bad. Because at the end of the day, visual effects, it's a very calculated decision, right? If you can't pull
Yeah.
something off, don't do it. Like it's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
um
Uh,
I think the same is
And
the speaking of visual effects, look at the Mandalorian. Like
man, oh yeah, that's beautiful.
we're
Like,
getting like
and the
Star Wars or better quality in a TV show.
oh mate,
Like
and the what are, I saw that new technology. Did you see that
yeah,
with
they so the if you guys haven't watched The Mandalorian, they're using instead of green screen, there's no green screen at all used in The Mandalorian. So that's where you'd put up a big green sheet and in post you can key out the green and then put any background, right? They don't do any of that on the set of The Mandalorian. Now, they probably don't do that for a couple reasons. One, they wanted to make a new technology and experiment with that, and that's super cool and everything. But number two, green screen has a look, right? You can kind of see a movie scene and go, oh, this is shot on green screen. It's got a very, the edges of people are very sharp and you don't get a lot of detail. Hair looks terrible on green screen because the hair kind of blends in with the green of the color of the backdrop. So what they're doing on The Mandalorian is they're using Unreal Engine, like the video game engine, and they've got a massive room, like a set, with these LED walls and LED ceiling, right? And they're projecting using Unreal Engine the world onto it. So they're actually capturing in camera the subject in the foreground and this background that they've created before coming to shoot it. Like someone sat there in Unreal and made a really cool, space environment.
dude.
Oh.
And the actors can get involved as well. They know what, like, oh, we're here now, because I think most films in the past 20 years have just been in front of a green screen and
The prequels.
and oh yeah, blue screen there. Oh yeah.
Oh, it's not the. I think the one that's classic is I haven't seen the movie, but I've watched parts of it. The new Jungle Book, like it's not new, but like of the last 5 or 6 years, you don't get the interaction with green screen.
Yeah.
You have to be a very talented actor to imagine, because clearly acting incorporates a lot of imagining. But if you don't have anything to go off other than some brief words on a script of where you are and what's going on,
yeah,
you might get a different vision. Like it's tough.
Speaking of The Mandalorian, though, what do you think of the soundtrack of it? I found it so good. Like and the theme song, I'd you'd bop your head to it. And
Mandalorian is one of the only shows I've ever watched that I will never skip the intro.
Yes, yeah, definitely. It
All
always
the
puts
credits.
you in that mood. It's so interesting that it puts you in that mood almost immediately, and you're like, oh, I'm hooked. This is it just.
Well, it's another tool, right?
Yeah, and the same guy that did the soundtrack of The Mandalorian, he also did the soundtrack of Tenet.
Another absolute masterclass. So it's Ludwig. I can't think of his last name.
Is it Göransson?
Yes. Yeah, that's him. He has a beautiful way of bringing music into the story, because let's be honest, there's a lot of things you watch and go, that was like the most not memorable like soundtrack of all time, or it's like clearly just they've paid someone else and got someone else's music and just thrown it in there somewhere to just fill dead noise in the scene, or like but it doesn't have to be like John Williams-esque memorable to be good music. Like I can't right now in my head, like I couldn't vocalize to you the Tenet soundtrack other than like probably the truck scene. Yeah.
I immediately knew what you were thinking of. Yeah.
That scene is the most dope scene. Like
it is. Did you see it in cinemas?
Yeah. I saw it in cinemas twice and I saw it at home once. So good, man.
Oh yeah, I watched it in cinemas as well, and I remember I was with a group of people, and when it came to that scene, and the sort of the bass drop, like the and it goes, I can't even
Yeah,
freaking. It sounds so cool. I just remember looking to my left and seeing like everybody just like mm, like
Oh,
bopping their head.
there was like,
Yeah.
but he then they like contrast that right with like ear destroying music. Like there's points of that soundtrack that are so eerie and like unnatural sounds that it builds that tension, and that's what he's doing. Like he's a script writer, but he's using notes instead of words. Like at the end
Yeah.
of the day.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. He's a script writer, but he's using notes
I just made
instead of
that up.
words.
It probably didn't sound as good in post as it sounds in my ears right now.
No, well, I'm a fan of it. Don't worry.
What about you? What other movies do you go soundtrack? What when I say movie music, where does your head go? Other than John Williams, because we've kind of said that. There we go.
Yeah. I know it's it's such a meme in the circles
Here
of
we go.
of me, but I will always recommend this movie. Watch the movie Her. By
I still
Spike
haven't seen
Jonze.
her, so you need to make me watch
Oh.
that. Probably in person. We'll have to do it at some point.
Yeah, well, actually, I would recommend you watch it alone. And
creepy.
this sounds bad, but like,
Man, he's shut down our friendship date. Friendship's over. Podcast is over.
Yeah. We'll make the second Her, and we'll watch that. Okay.
Is that Joaquin Phoenix?
Joaquin
Whatever his name
Phoenix,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Scarlett Johansson is the voice of the computer. But
spoilers.
Arcade, yeah. Well, you know it. It's the one that the guy falls in love with a computer and blah blah blah. Blah. Like, sounds weird. Definitely to give it a watch though. If you're into more just filmmaking and how to write a really good script that touches you. In lots of different ways.
What about the music from that movie? Without like spoiling it for me. Like what's the like what makes you go that movie? What made you think of that movie?
Well, they actually got, it wasn't a orchestra, it wasn't a particular composer. It was mainly just a band from Canada called Arcade Fire. Actually, you might know one of their songs where it goes like, "When your left hand's free, when I'm man." I don't know the other lyrics.
Yeah, I
but
know
they
that
played
song.
it. Yeah, that's them. That's them. Oh no, that's Alt J. Never mind.
Okay, well now you've confused
Um,
me.
They sound similar. They're both similar bands. But yeah, Arcade Fire. This soundtrack, I think, really, it's just simple yet poignant. It's got just in some pieces, it's just got like this sort of soft piano, and it kind of just it's almost like just subtle of like what Theodore, the Joaquin Phoenix's character, is going through, or then it's also got this sort of, I don't know how I'll describe it, this sort of organ, but it's almost like a depressed organ. It's
It's a sad way of describing it.
yeah, no, like once you hear it, you'll be like, yeah, okay, I get you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it really, it captures whatever the character is going through so well, just and just the whole vibe and mood, and yeah, I'd recommend that. But yeah, I guess I want to ask you the question, like, what jumps out to you? What movie soundtrack jumps out to you that you kind of go like, oh, okay, that's the one.
I'm gonna be such a boomer.
Okay.
Anything John Williams, man. He hits home. He hits home, dude. He hits hard. Like
Just remind me, like, best movies that he's done, or best soundtracks he's done, you reckon?
So I mean, like start with like his good ones, but not his like. Okay, Star Wars would be in his like top echelon of stuff.
Yeah.
But like it's not just the stuff like the main theme. Yeah, it's great, and everyone remembers it. But I like froth over Luke's theme, that like beautiful like theme that plays when Luke's looking at the moons on Tatooine, like
Oh
that
yeah,
beautiful
yeah.
like oh
Dun-dun.
Duel
Yeah.
of the Fates in the prequels,
Oh,
like
yes.
that,
Yeah.
like
I'm so glad you
oh.
brought that up. Yes.
Like that
Oh,
is, I listen to that song and picture myself like in a lightsaber battle. Like that song
yeah,
is like
yeah.
perfect. Um, and but that's like the stuff that like goes really like everyone is really like familiar with. He also did Jaws, another one that everyone's pretty familiar
Oh
with.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
that theme, I would say underrated, because that theme almost is as integral to the Jaws movie as the visuals. Like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
he
So
builds tension with his music.
that's the one where it's like you just hear that dun
Yeah.
dun
Dun
yeah, yeah.
dun 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 dun
Dun,
dun
dun,
dun
dun, dun,
dun.
dun. Yeah, yeah. Oh man.
But there's scenes in that movie, right, that the shark's not in. Spoilers. There's scenes where the shark is not when you think the shark is in the scene. But the
Yeah.
theme's playing. It's masterclass from John Williams. John Williams gets you early in the movie to associate his main theme with the shark. And
Yeah.
then what he's
Yeah.
doing is he's teasing you by, they'll have a camera angle that's like coming up at a person, and it'll be dun 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 dun, and you're like, oh my gosh, this person's about to get chomped, and then it'll be a like debris in the ocean or a wave, or it'll be like he's creating tension by linking the song with the villain of the movie. And then he's building that tension that the movie couldn't build with just the visuals, right? Because visuals are one
Yeah.
thing. You show something scary. No, Jaws makes you feel like something's there, but doesn't show you that the thing is there. It's this weird, like, giving the audience more information than the character.
And your mind hearing this is like, oh frick, and it's almost, you get into that fight or flight sort of mode, and you're like, and your mind's acutely aware of like, and it's trying to look out in the shots. Yeah, I think that's really cool, and it reminds me of what Howard Shaw would do in Lord of the Rings, and create
Lord of the Rings.
By the way, did you know that we like Lord of the Rings? Like,
oh my gosh, man. Dun, 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 and you're like,
yeah.
But again, he's associating
Okay.
the music with the characters, right? And it doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything on its own. It's the link with the movie. It's another tool. What were you saying about Lord of the Rings?
And even I would add to what you were saying, like he even does the cultures of Middle Earth. Like there's even differences between men and elves. Like I think the elves of Rivendell had this like fairly heavenly sort of like, oh yeah, I can't
Yeah,
even
and then the hobbits are
do it.
just like people strumming banjos.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. And like the little flutes and very innocent, and then
like the real bad sounds of Mordor, and like you get that like the drums. Do you remember when they like start bringing you into Mordor? You're getting this like drumming sound in the background.
yeah.
Like that's music as a storytelling tool. Like
Mm.
it's mood, right? Like he sets that from the get-go before you even get to see an orc rip another orc to pieces, or like it's yeah.
What's your favorite favorite soundtrack, or favorite song, I guess, from the soundtrack of all the Lord of the Rings? If you could pick one.
I can't say I'm like awfully familiar with like a lot of like I couldn't say a particular song, but I'd probably just go like, as boring as it is, the main theme. Like
Yeah.
just that gets me in the mood for Lord of the Rings. Like
Yeah.
I've associated the music with the emotions I feel while watching the films. And I think that's what good music does. Whether that's music that you listen to that's got words and it's not associated with some kind of project, or it's built into your favorite movie or TV show.
yeah, and isn't it just so, and you can, and it changes your day as well. Once you hear that theme, you're like, oh, yes, like this is what life is almost. Like this is the triumphant parts of life, very, and
Do you
like the
remember when you like would
adventurous.
rush home on a Monday night or whenever it was for
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh
It's Game of Thrones Sod Boys, new episodes out. Let's go.
yeah,
I'm
and
feeling
you
really
get
bad how much I love The Walking Dead, but I can't think of the theme.
um oh yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
was trying to think. It was
something
like
like
it,
that.
and it just like as that's just as good as like some of these other themes. They don't have to be awfully memorable. That make you feel like that theme. I feel like in The Walking Dead is like a real. I feel danger in that theme, and I feel like loss and like sadness and like and like it fits that
Yeah.
whole like after the apocalypse kind of world
And
vibe.
all structure has fallen.
Mm.
Um, all of our structure that we've created has fallen, and what we're left with is like despair and hell. And yeah, yeah. Um,
Oh my gosh,
oh,
goosebumps! I watched a scene from The Dark Knight Rises the other day when
oh yeah, yeah.
Bruce is climbing out of the
Is
pit.
that bish bish? Is it bish
Basara,
bish?
basara,
Basara,
basara.
basara, basara, bish bish, basara, basara. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I get goosebumps when he's like, "What does it mean?" And the guy's like, "Rise." Like,
yeah.
oh.
Oh, yeah, the
Oh
Dark Knight
man.
series. And oh, just I get tingles and goosebumps of uh how eerie it was when I first watched The Dark Knight. I think that was 2008, so it's like 9 or 10 when I
It's
first
crazy
watched it.
how
I
old
probably
that is.
yeah, yeah, but still holds up like
Mm.
magnificently. Um, when it's the interrogation scene for the Dark Knight with the Joker, and you can hear his theme playing, like the backwards sort of is it violin, or I don't know what sort of instrument it was. You can see I'm actually getting goosebumps right now. Like um yeah, no, honest, just the sliding of the notes, like you're going into his twisted mind, you're going into his how he views things, and how he views that everybody else is just like him, and you know but they just don't want to admit it, and that sort of stuff, like um
Christopher Nolan, man.
it's
It's
yeah, it's
different.
beautiful. Mm.
I like as much as like, and we'll talk about this on another episode because I feel like we could talk about a whole episode just on like Nolan stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I wasn't the biggest fan of Heath Ledger's Joker. I didn't have any like. I thought he was amazing,
Yeah, yeah.
but I didn't really feel he wasn't the Joker I wanted to see. As much as I was impressed and respected the performance, it wasn't exactly what I wanted out of the Joker. But that film is like, the more you think about it, the more you watch it, that film and The Dark Knight Rises are like the perfect way to tell a story. And
Mm.
music comes with both of those. Like the you get this, I don't know what, who did the Hans Zimmer, right? Did
Yeah,
the Dark
yeah.
Knight series. He gets this like real like, and in that, just after that interrogation scene, we get the real sad like violin when spoilers, Rachel dies.
Oh
um
yeah, yeah.
and we're getting that like iconic shot of Batman on top of the rubble of the building, and we're like pushing in on Batman, and we get this like, or like, I get goosebumps thinking of the scene in The Dark Knight Rises when Bane destroys the football field, and it's
Oh
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he comes out and it's all this like like with the police going into the sewers, and it's like this, oh, Bane, what's he gonna do? And then it cuts all audio, and it's the little boy singing the national anthem, and I
Oh
still
yeah,
get
yeah.
goosebumps to this day of like, we cut the music, and we make you feel all this emotion in the anthem, and then Bane walks out, blows the field, and it's like this. Oh,
it hits. It really hits. I can feel that too, man. Like it's oh. We'll have to sit down and watch that series again, I reckon.
I think we'd have to do some reacts to scenes on this podcast as well. Like we'll have to sit and like watch a little bit of something memorable, and then we'll talk about it on the podcast. I think that would be a good way to interact with some of that stuff. But we better wrap up this episode. We're gonna it's not like the conversation ends here. Like hopefully by the time you're watching this, it won't be long, and you can click the next episode button, and we're back on your screens with another episode.
Yeah.
But the conversation never ends.
That hook.
Yeah, we always get you with that hook.
Yeah.
But yeah, the conversation never ends. Keep it going in the comments. Keep it going with your mates. Keep it going with us. Tag us in the comments. What do you think about, what we're having what we're saying on the podcast? Because we're trying to start discussions. Obviously, not everyone's going to have, the same views. But that's what makes talking with someone interesting. Because if you're talking to yourself, I mean, I love talking to myself, but like you wouldn't do it all day. But what I wanted to say though, as we wrap up this podcast, we obviously on this podcast talk about things that we're very passionate about. You can tell. If there's something you guys are passionate about and you'd love to hear us talk about on the podcast, please drop it in the comments section, because we'd rather talk about something that we're passionate about and you're passionate about to keep that conversation going. I've already got some DMs with some suggestions of what people want to hear about. Andrew suggested that we talk about video game movies on an episode of the podcast. Ooh, which ones are bad? Which ones are good? Yeah, very controversial. I think we'll fight over this one. But I'll drop here spoilers. The new Mortal Kombat's amazing. And anyone who says that it's not, I will fight. I'll fight to the death.
And my opinion is it's okay. It was all right.
We're ending the podcast forever.
And we can do a Q&A as well. I feel like we'll be able to do that. So if you've got any questions, we can pile them all up and then maybe even have a whole episode dedicated to it, or we can section it off in the podcast. Who knows? But yeah, questions welcome. Any sort of question, how long is my left arm?
Ear.
Left ear, left
how
arm.
long is his... Oh, wait. Did it work?
It's working.
Okay, good. Yeah. So ask all those things in the comments. But thank you so much for listening or watching. We'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks